Alright, so, Alex, I'm going to chat with you.
Okay.
So, Pepper and Derry were born, Pepper and Derry's puppies were born yesterday. And I was like, okay, how can I have a chat with people about the puppy parties, right? So puppy parties, like inviting people who are possibly wanting to buy a puppy, and I'd like them to at least do 3 puppy parties so you can match them. But like in between, you still want to do some socialization and a little bit of conditioning and training with the puppies even before they go home, right? So I got this idea from Ian Dunbar. And then I thought, well, hang on a moment. How many people, like, okay, well, what do I get when I get a puppy? Right. So I thought, cool. Pet Circle's having a Black Friday sale? Black Friday sale?
Black
Yes, there you go. A Black Sale. Okay. Sorry about that. Black Sales? Isn't that a movie or a series? I don't know. Anyway, doesn't matter. Black Friday sale. And I thought this is a good time to get some stuff for if you are prepping for a puppy, right? Now, this is just like a minimum list, basic stuff that I want to talk about.
Okay.
Because, and it's from my point of view, right? Because I've raised a lot of puppies. That's kind of my specialty. Having said that, I raised more working dogs, like actual working roles, than I did pets. But the same principles kind of apply, right? So the first one's the food. I'm not a vet and I'm not a dog nutritionist. I'm a person with a little bit of common sense. Maybe not the same common sense as other people. Like, my dad is a mechanical engineer, and his common sense and my common sense are not the same. Right, so I'm hoping to share some common sense with people who are not dog people. Okay, and then obviously people who are dog people, if they want to know something different, that's great. Alright, so if we talk about food, right, so there's this whole thing about, do I buy biscuits or do I buy raw food or fresh food? Now, the fresh food ones where you get all those things where you see on TikToks and stuff where it's all these like food and it looks like a whole gourmet meal almost, I want to say. I don't have time for that, so I don't do that. I don't even eat that way, as you know. So I looked at the food and I thought, okay, well, how about you look at shall I call them the effects or the pros and cons or whatever you want to call it about the food. Okay, so you get raw food and you get biscuits. So first off, you got to think about your budget. Okay, like what costs more per month to buy, like that, right? But there's a trade-off down the road, which is what is the effect of the food. So for some people, I always think of the food you buy and on the other side the ratio to vet visits. Yeah, because like for some dogs, biscuits might work really well, but raw food might not, and you pay a lot of money for vet bills, and vice versa, because it's such a controversial topic. Like, no matter who you talk to, you go talk to people who do raw food and they'll be like, no, biscuits is crap. You talk to people who feed biscuits and they'll go, oh no, raw food is horrible. And I'm like, look, just how about you trial and error and figure it out. Yeah.
What about wet food, which is not raw food?
Oh, wet food. Well, I don't really know much about wet food, to be honest.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know.
Isn't the roll or what you get in a tin, isn't that classified as wet food? That's
I don't know.
I would classify as wet food.
Well, I don't know.
Okay.
I can't answer you because I don't know. So these are the 2 foods I know. Right?
So what do you call the rolls?
What? I don't know. Tucker time, like the. No, I don't.
The prime.
I don't see that. I think they're more treats because they're a lot of water.
Okay.
I don't think you should feed your dog only that. I know because we used to use it for training board and trained dogs.
Okay.
Because we needed something that dogs really wanted in such a high stressful, distracted, busy environment.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So we would feed them that, but it's a lot of water. Like you can actually go and look at the roll and you'll see how much water is in there compared to the actual nutrients, like nutrient dense food you need. I wouldn't feed my dog permanently on that.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah. So that's the one thing. It's like, okay, you need to go and look and research and do your own research of like, well, what do you think is going to be best, right? I personally feed my dogs raw food. Okay. Most of my dogs do absolutely wonderful on raw food. I found biscuits, they don't do as well. So that's behaviorally and health-wise, by the way. So I found the periods of time my dogs were long periods. I'm not talking about 2 weeks. I'm talking about six to 18 months. In that period, I had more vet bills on biscuits than I did like kibble, right? Than I did on raw food. So when my dogs were on raw food, I didn't have to go to the vet, and my dogs were balanced in their energy levels. I'm talking working dogs, by the way, not just pets. So high drive dogs. They were super healthy. Like when they went for their vet checkups, all their tests were really good. The skins were great. The fur was good. They had no problems. UTIs and things like that were a lot less, if that makes sense. So that's my experience. But the problem with raw is it's very difficult to train with. Okay, where if you're buying kibble, that's super easy to train with. It's easy to store. But also remember that dogs who train with biscuits are going to be thirsty because it's dry. So the dry food that I would buy, me personally, is Royal Canine 3800, which is a really top quality food. When I was looking for it, you could not buy it commercially. So I actually have to order it specifically through a few different people who they actually supply it to working dogs. And then the other one I do is Performa dog food. So I actually know the people who developed this. I've known them for years, and that's a pretty good kibble. The raw food that I buy comes from Wild Pet. I was actually part of, they were trialing it before they decided to, they did this year or two, over a long period, 2-3 years, I can't remember what it was, to see, is it truly really good? Is it worth it for the dogs? And what's really cool is they actually help a lot of primary producers and things. So they actually get people to go and hunt. So they do biodiversity conservation with hunting. And then they take those animals, they bring it in, and they literally mince everything of the animal. So you get everything in that roll.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's what I use.
Because I guess it's, going raw, there's a bit more to science to it, isn't it? So it's balanced.
I think it depends on what you do, right? So if you're someone who does kibble, you're going to find a lot of good information about kibble. You're not going to find a lot of bad information. If you're someone who loves raw food, the algorithms will give you all the benefits of the raw food, but not the negative effects of it, unless you specifically look for it. So you need to go and look at that. But I like to think of a chef that says the proof is in the pudding. You're going to have to see with your dogs, and you're going to have to make your own mind up at some point, right? So that's the food. Now here's the thing, I mainly train with my dog's food, okay, because I calculate the amount of rations they need per day, and then I use that. And there's one thing is, I'm not feeding treats in between, because you take that food and every little bit of treat makes a lot. So I don't want my dogs to be overweight. So these puppies are Labradors, and Labradors are known to be black holes, and they love eating. Although my recent experience, when I say recent, this last 2 to 3 years, I've actually had a few Labradors that had no food drive. It was really weird. One was fat, I will say that. So I can understand he didn't have food drive, because his body's saying you don't need any more. The other one was not fat. Okay, he was really pristine looking. So that's the thing, is preventing obesity in my dogs, because I'm sorry, if your dogs are fat, that is, unless they have an actual medical condition like a thyroid problem or something like that, your dog should not be fat, because to me that is irresponsible. You're putting so much pressure on that dog's organs and systems. Nah, that's another thing. So I don't do real treats. Now if I was doing treats, I actually do Ziwi Pig most of the time. If I'm buying it for my dogs, that's what I use. I use Ziwi Pig. That's very expensive. It's so nutrient dense. Hence why I don't use it that's why I use it as a treat. Like a treat. I will take, if I'm feeding 100 grams of Ziwi Pig, then I'm going to roughly take 100 grams out of their daily rations. Now here's the thing, it's a process to figure out, right? So I give it a week, and then I'll look at my dog. So every week I will measure my dog's health, right? So that's weight, that's body composition, energy levels, skin, teeth, any problems that they have. Like my one dog had UTIs frequently, and when she was on raw food, that went away, right? So you have to think weekly, and then I would adjust the rations and the ratios as need be. My dog is hilarious. I say hilarious because people would look at her and go, "You're not really feeding your dog enough." And I'd look at them and I go, "She gets 1.8 kilos a day of food." So that is including the raw meat, right? And it's fat meat, so that's like meaning like beef. What's the other one? Sheep. So lamb. Not so. If she was on kangaroo only, she would probably have to eat more because that's a very lean meat. And that includes some of her, like she got sweet potato and then a few other things in between just to help her with some nutrient-specific stuff. So you have to kind of work that out, and that takes time to figure out, right? Now, I will say, if you go from biscuits and you transition to raw, that's where I like the ratios that you take it over a week that you transition the dog, because you will have diarrhea because the whole system has to adapt to this new type of food. But if you go from one biscuit to another biscuit, it shouldn't be as bad. There's still going to be some diarrhea and stuff, and it also depends on your dog's system. So I don't want people to comment on this going, "Yeah, but my dog, I don't know about your dog. I'm literally just talking here." Yeah. So that's why I use food, I don't use treats. And then the next thing they talk here about with the category of shopping is flea and worming. Now this is really cool, right? So I use diatomaceous earth. Okay, so it's like a natural, it's the food grade one, and it's a natural, it deals with inside, so internal and external parasites. Okay, now you can read all about it if you want. I'm not really going to do that. But if you're not using that, what PTSD Dogs Australia use, because I volunteer with them, and they're training dogs for assistance dog roles. So they have to make sure that the dogs are in peak condition and they are on top of those parasite treatments, right? Because you got dogs going where pet dogs don't go. So that's part of the occupational health and safety, especially the category, or you need to meet those requirements. If that's how you earn the right to have your dog out in public areas. Okay, so they use NexGard Spectra, but the problem with NexGard Spectra, it does not cover tapeworms. So on top of that, you have to make sure, I think it's every 3 months, you can get like a tablet from the vet or something to specifically handle that.
Okay.
Yeah. So if you're doing deworming and flea treatment, you need to make sure that you're actually covering the spectrum of things that present in the environment. Like heartworm you need to look at heartworm, because that's a horrible thing to get, I think. And I think once a dog has it, it has it.
Yeah, and you have to be careful of giving it if you haven't tested your dog for heartworms.
Well, I don't know about that one.
Yeah.
So that's not my area. I'm not a vet. Okay. I come from South Africa. You need to understand, right? South Africa is not nearly as nice and clean-ish as Australia. Yeah. So I'm literally just telling you how it is. Okay. Let's see here. Dog toys is the next category. So interestingly here, I am very funny when it comes to dog toys because there's so much out there, and for me it's about getting to know your dog, so your puppy, as they develop. Right? Now, between 4 to 6 months, we definitely have teething stages that's coming out. So this is where the puppy goes and but is like, I need to make sure that I'm getting rid of these baby teeth. And here's the problem. Baby teeth are itchy. They're so itchy. So you can't expect a puppy to want... No, you can't do that unless... Okay, I'll let you drive.
Yes, let me drive.
Let you drive, because I'm talking. I'm doing what I know about, not what you know about. Yeah, sorry, Alex. Poor Alex always deals with this. So you have to give them hard things to chew so that they can get rid of the baby teeth. Now, here's something that's going to sound very controversial. You go to the pet store, right? Now, when I feed my dogs, I actually give them raw bones, right? When I say raw bones, so puppies I give chicken necks, chicken carcasses, soup bones, things like that. That's actually naturally a good way to, shall I call it, brush the teeth. You cannot tell me that biscuits brush teeth. Have you ever tried to eat cookies for a month? I'm sorry, that's silly. So no.
Too much of it.
No, that's dumb. But when my puppies go through the teething period, right? Because oral health is important, so those bones are very part of my dog's diet. Yeah, so the habitual diet that they eat. Only time I won't give a dog bones is one, if it's cooked, because the integrity of the bone is compromised, and that's where all the splintering happens. Especially if you give poultry, because bones and poultry are supposed to be very like there's supposed to be bubbles in there because it's supposed to be light. Yeah, correct. But if a dog swallows bones whole, that's a problem. So soup bones and stuff like that, you can't give that to a dog that swallows bones whole, because that's a problem. Okay. What was I going to say? Oh yeah. So teething stage, 4 to 6 months. Now, generally before the teething happens, yes, puppies explore with their mouths. That's what they do. But you're going to figure out whether your puppy loves to chew or dissect, which is an aspect of play. Yeah. So some puppies will show you very early on that they're chewers. Okay, so they're going to be worse in teething stage. Okay, and then they're probably going to continue that, preference. Some puppies never chew before they enter the teething stage. They chew because they have to get rid of the puppy teeth, and then they're like, oh, I like this. Right, so that's hilarious. That's fascinating. My dog Ziva was different. Like, she didn't chew before. She went through the teething stage, and I'll tell you what we did there. And then after, she didn't chew. So again, you got to get to know your pup, right? Now Ziva was interesting. So I actually got her, what's it called? Like horns, like your goat horns and things. And I remember picking the horn and looking at it, and this guy came up in the pet shop and he said, oh yeah, asked me some questions, and I had Ziva there, and it's like, oh yeah, it's for her. And he freaked. He was like, no, you can't do that. You can't. And I went, why? And he said, oh, your puppy's gonna break their teeth. I remember looking at him thinking, okay. I said, oh yeah, thanks for that, and I went and bought it anyway. Because at that time, I was like, something in my mind, my intuition said, nah, I'm not going to take his advice. And then I thought about it. Hello, even if she does break her puppy teeth, right? I want the gums to be strong. Now you need to understand, I'm not a veterinarian. This is my own thing. I have seen so many puppies chew on bricks and rocks and trees and steel to get rid of the baby teeth. So I'm just saying, can it cause it? Yes, of course. But I want the gums to be strong because, hello, they're going to lose their puppy teeth, right? So if they break their puppy teeth, it's going to fall out later. It's the adult teeth that I'm preparing for. Now, do I like my adult dogs to chew on metal? No, probably not, because that's going to be a problem. So that's a controversial topic, I think, and you need to make your own choices. But I'm telling you, from my experience, from so many people I've spoken to, they'll look at me and go, why is my dog chewing on the metal table leg? And I'm like, well, he's trying to get rid of the puppy teeth. Does that make sense? All right. So, because we get chew toys. I also like Kongs. You can put food in there and whatnot. I love playing with Kongs because it bounces weird. There's some of these dogs hunting. I like tug toys. I don't like rope toys for dogs. There's a lot of dogs that don't like the feel of it in their mouth. So places I usually get my toys from is K9 Pro. Is a good place for me to get tugs. So I like the tugs and I like the flipper. So flipper is really fun because that's like a cat toy for dogs. Yeah, that's always fun because you get to address a dog's drive and spend some energy, and you can actually make them think, which is really cool. So there's tugs here. There's what they call cushions or pillows, which if you do bite sports, it'll make a bit more sense. But yeah, so the tugs are my favorite They've got different textiles, like French linen. There's fire hose. Yeah, material, textile. Yeah, cool. So flirt poles are one of my favorites. Pets are cool. There's balls, so there's lots of balls that you can buy. And it's interesting, I just watched a video about a vet reacting to how there's a technique apparently to remove balls that are stuck in a dog's throat.
Oh, yeah.
So I know people talk about the ball with the hole, but the thing is that's only helpful if the hole is one pointing down and one pointing up. But if it's turned the other way where the holes are stuck in this side, that's not helpful anyway. And I think that'll suck in there, but that's just my opinion. But what I do like about those balls is so there's these balls in Pet Circle that I like to buy, and it's usually like a studded ball. It's got a hole and then usually a bell inside. So with young puppies you can play and it really gets their attention. And then as they grow, because they're getting used to this sort of studded feeling in their mouth, I will then take out the bell and I will put in a cotton rope in there, which is nice for my hands. And then you can play tug as well, which is awesome. I like the chukkered balls. I do expose my dogs to tennis balls because it's such a common thing. I know some people have a big problem with tennis balls.
Yeah, they grate the teeth.
Yeah, but that's if they chew them. Because there's glue on it, right? The tennis ball's for throwing and fetching out of water. It's not a chew toy. So if you're doing that, then you're doing something incorrect.
Yes.
There's also a ball I really like. I just can never remember what it's called, but it's almost like a solid rubber ball. They bounce really fun. And my puppies love those as well. So, but other balls I don't really buy. You can actually, those studded balls, you can get them from Kmart. I think last time I went there, it's like $3.50 a ball. And I'm weird. I always have at least one more ball than I have dogs. So if you have one puppy, 2 balls will be fine. But if you've got 3 dogs, you should have 4. Do you know what I mean? Like that.
Why is that?
If you have dogs that can be a bit competitive, like they're a bit of a resource, like if you're testing for resource guarding, you're always going to have one extra ball. Depends, obviously. I'm not dumb. I know dogs can hoard balls too. That's not what I'm talking about here.
Oh yeah, I made one with 3 balls in there.
Yeah. It's also good to have 2 of each because it's a lot easier to teach a puppy to engage with you and let go and give and stuff like that. That's my theory. It's just one way of training dogs to give toys back and re-engage and stuff. So I always like to have at least 2. So if I have 1 dog, I have 2 balls. Right, so it's the same ball. And colours are the same. Because some dogs are weird. They're very colour specific. Even though I know they don't see all colours. But I can't speak for that because I'm not the colour blindness dogs are. They have health here, which I'm not going to talk about. They have grooming. Oh, the grooming. One of my preferences when I want a dog is if it requires more grooming than me, I don't want it. Okay? But I know some people who absolutely love grooming dogs, like that, love brushing their dogs. That's fantastic. Power to you. It's all good. Me, not so much. Now, I know Labradors, for example, have a double coat. So I like to get the Furminators, so things that remove the undercoat as well. And here's the cool thing, right? We just spoke about toys. The 2 ways that members in a pack, and even with herding animals, like grazing animals, is play and grooming. So you want to bond with your dog, those are the 2 things you should really be doing every day. Like play for sure. Grooming, maybe not every day, but at least once a week. If you do less than once a week, you have a problem because there's 3 reasons why I would do it, right? Number 1 is the obvious thing. My dog looks good. And if you're grooming and you're frequently removing debris and things, 1, the smell's gonna be less. And 2, whatever hair ends up in the bin isn't on your furniture. Because dogs live with us inside these days, right? When I grew up, they lived outside. So no one had a problem if they were a bit stinky. And they look good. Now, for an assistance dog, that is a super important thing. A therapy dog, that's a super important thing. Yeah? You okay with it? Cool. The second thing is it's part of bonding, right? And then the third thing is, which I really think is so important and especially for being a responsible dog owner, is you need to do what I call hands-on, hands-off. So you need to be able to tell if something's not right with your dog. Sometimes it's watching a dog and going, that dog's not moving as usual. But most of the time we do it with feel. So you're looking for lumps, bumps, bruises. You're moving things, and you might feel how a dog's hiding something. Because that's just a natural thing, right? It's like, oh, I'm fine. Yeah? So that's why the grooming's so important. So brushing your dog is super important. And I think the more you brush your dog, personally, the less you have to wash it. Which means you don't need to remove natural oils in the hair and fur and all that sort of stuff. I do know that some dogs, and I will say this, some dogs, when they're on a diet, it can actually affect how they smell. Because I actually have a client that knows if her dog gets chicken, a day or two later, she's this stinky dog. Not because she farts. She does fart, but that's not it. It's literally like her smell. So you got to figure that out, right? What else about grooming? Ooh, clipping nails. Oh my goodness. You should be teaching your puppy from a very young age that you can touch everything. I mean everything. I'm not saying play with it, like tickle their toes. That's not what I'm saying. Or pull their tail. That's not what I'm saying. But you should be able to touch everything. You must be able to hold that dog's paw. And I'm talking from a puppy to an adult. It's very difficult if you can't hold a paw and clip a nail comfortably. Do you know what they do these days? This shocked me. I kid you not. Take the dog to a vet, sedate it to clip its nails. When I came here, I was like, why? Yeah. It's probably one of the easiest things to condition a puppy to accept is hands-on handling cooperative care. I am so confused. Right? Yeah. What am I missing? So we got grooming, washing. Yeah, you got to figure out if your dog has any specific requirements. I don't talk about that.
But that's touching everything.
Yeah, you know. Training and cleaning up. Ooh, training and cleaning up. I love that. So, toilet training. One, I will never do it without a crate ever again. Right, I'm telling you, the crate is great. Now, when I came here, I remember someone saying, yeah, the crate's like a den. It is not a den. A den does not have doors. And it's in the ground. Hey?
Only if you make it a bad thing.
No, hang on. You can create an association. So you can teach them that it is a safe. Association is a safe space. Association can be a resting place.
But that's what I mean.
Yeah, but I don't know that, and they don't know that. Yeah, but it's not a den. It's a box. It's confinement. Yes. Remember, we're being very. I know what you mean, but they don't know what you mean. I'm just telling you what Alex means. Okay, so
you know what I mean.
You can create. Well, you just said that. She's being silly, isn't she? So I'm telling her she should drive. She should let me talk. Alex, let me talk, or I'm gonna tell you how to drive.
You can do that because I'm listening as well and I'm answering.
Yeah, she is actually very good.
So multitasking here.
You are. Okay, so crate.
Yes.
Very great. Now, years ago, I watched something about Dr. Ian Dunbar. Let me just grab this real quick so I can show people what it looks like. And he actually spoke about a long-term confinement area, which I thought was amazing. It was really smart. And it's an area that you set up that uses the natural instincts of dogs. So any animal, usually, if they have like a permanent area of living, like a den, you know, like foxes and wolves and painted dogs, for example, they won't pee and poop and eat where they live. Puppies will, but the adults will always clean up after them. And then they'll learn to do it somewhere else because, one, you can attract scavengers. Two, you can attract insects and parasites, which invites sickness. So it's a natural instinct thing, yeah? And the problem that most people have is their house is super big. So you actually have to go through a process which we call house training or toilet training to educate the dog that inside here we don't toilet, go outside. But it's a process. You cannot expect a puppy to hold it for 8 hours. That is silly. Okay, that is unfair to the pup. That's unfair to a dog with medical issues. So, what did people create? They created what they call the puppy pads. Now, I'm not a fan of puppy pads because you need to understand how to wean them off. Because all you're teaching is a specific area that a dog can pee inside from it or poo. From a tactile point of view, touchy point of view, what's the difference between a puppy pad and a carpet? Or a blanket? Or the mat in the toilet area, the bathroom? They don't know unless you teach them, right? And that's a process. So I use the crate and I use the long-term confinement area if my puppy has to be alone for long periods of time, because people work, right? Now, I will mention this as a little tip, like wink, wink, nudge, nudge. A lot of people will take 2 weeks off when they get a puppy. Don't do that. I wouldn't do that. I would get the puppy, maybe have 1 or 2 or 3 days off, and then the next 10 days, I would have half days at work. Yeah, because you want to teach your pup to be able to be alone without you there. So you can do more, you can go to work in the morning, or you could go to work in the afternoons, like 4 hours. And here's the cool thing, a crate should never be used more for 8 hours when the puppy's alone. I'm not talking about sleep during the night. By the way, it's a process to teach a dog that's a predator. Technically, they're nocturnal, to teach them to swap it. Right. I know, because I worked with dogs and they were so much more effective and active at night than they were during the day. Because we're the only weirdos that will work when it's super hot, from 11 till 4 in Australia. So, toilet training, the only other reason I will use puppy pads is for the assistance dogs, right? Because if you're going to be traveling on, let's say, a train or an airplane, your dog needs to go. Now, if you go you went to Germany, right?
Yep.
How long was that flight?
First one was around 13 hours.
13?
Yes.
The first part of it?
Yep.
That's a freaking long time.
Yep.
Okay, so 13 hours and then?
And there's 2 flights.
And there's 2 flights, yep. So that's number one. And then you had to stop?
And I had to stop for around 3 hours.
3 hours? Okay, so hopefully you could give your dog a toilet break if you had an assistance dog. Can you get out of the airport?
Not out of the airport.
Not out of the...
It will be in the airport.
Okay, you hope that there's a toilet area in the airport for the dog. Okay, and then the second part?
Second one was around 9 hours.
9 hours. Okay, so there you go. So if you're going to be flying on an airplane, your dog will need to go eventually. And the best way to do this is teach them from a young age to toilet on cue on a puppy pad. Okay, that's very specific. Okay. Now, accidents happen. I do accidents. I still do accidents. And I have trained dogs I've raised puppies since 2010. Right? And I still make educated decisions that wasn't going to work out as I thought. I think one of them was like this pup who was about 6 months of age, and for some reason he couldn't hold for more than an hour and a half.
Okay.
Right? Now I took him to the vet, turned out he's okay, he didn't have any UTIs or anything, but then I realized it was his muscular system wasn't quite as developed. Now here I can relate because I have a developmental problem, I'm autistic, and part of mine is actually the development of my bladder. I still have problems, I still have incontinence. So luckily for some, like some dogs who have incontinence, they might actually have to wear underwear.
Nappy or something.
Yeah, nappy or something. Because that's a medical thing, right? That's not something you can change. You can't
it's
train
not the
that.
dog's fault.
No, it's not my fault either.
No.
Yeah. Well, that's why sometimes I'm like, I need to go pee behind a tree because there's no toilet. I grew up in South Africa. I just made sure no one could see me because I don't want to be arrested for indecent exposure. So there's a little joke. So when you're getting a cleaning product, right, there's 2 things you need to think about. One is, what are you cleaning? Like, not poop or pee, that's not what I mean. Is it on tiles or carpet or vinyl? Like, what is it? So you need to make sure that whatever you're spraying on the floor ain't gonna hurt it. Does that make sense? And then I think, I was told this, I don't actually know this. It'd be great to hear any vets that will tell me if I'm being silly. I think they said there's a chemical in cleaning products that smell like pee.
Okay.
Yeah,
Don't know.
oh no, what was it called? I have so much information in my brain sometimes. It's hard to go and get the right one.
We'll come to you.
Yeah, well, hopefully it'll come to me within this video. But yeah, you can ask your vets about that, like their specific, because I mean I can't smell dog pee unless it's really strong.
Ammonia?
I don't know if it's ammonia. Anyway, so you gotta look at that, right? One of my favorite ones to talk about is collars and leashes. Oh boy. So, Pet Circle has these harnesses that I really like because when my puppy's in their socialization stage, up to about 6 months, depending on how big they get, how quick, right? So if it's a Great Dane, it probably won't be, that might be 6 months. But if it's a Chihuahua, up until about 8 months, I will use a step-in harness because it's super easy to get on. I used to, with the working dogs, I used to run backwards and encourage them to kind of like jump. And then as they jump, I would literally slip the harness around them, clip, and go. That's how I got my puppies on the harness, because it was like, come on, we got to do stuff, right? And that socialization period, I want my puppies to explore as much as possible, right? But I can still restrain them, because out in public you can't have dogs running willy-nilly. It's too much of a hazard, right? I'm not doing any obedience or anything. And a lot of the work we used to do, we worked on harnesses because we wanted our dogs to be unrestricted. So like tracking, you need dogs to breathe. So the harness will be set in a way that the oxygen can still go. If you have a dog that, let's say, works and pulls things, a harness is designed to make pulling very effective. A harness doesn't create pulling, that's not what I'm saying, but it makes pulling effective. Dog can get really low because their center of gravity goes really low, and they can actually utilize their entire body. Okay. Now, if you want to teach your dog to walk on a harness for the rest of his life, good luck. If you do it and it works for the dog, great. I have no problems. But while my puppy is doing the socialization period, right, I want them unencumbered to explore, but I can still restrain them. However, in the meantime, I will then teach them how to walk on a leash, to teach them that I've got control over your neck and you need to comply and, work with me, right? However that looks. And that depends on what kind of stuff the puppy responds to or the dog responds to. Okay, I'm not getting into that. Now, I will say the other reason why usually I'll have a harness up to about 6 months is because my puppies are teething. I don't actually want to be working on the neck and area too much, so I don't irritate the jaws too much, because I've had puppies that would get really annoyed because, it would put pressure on here, and some puppies don't. They're in pain. They're annoyed. They're in pain. They're trying to get rid of puppy teeth, and it's annoying. And then there's this person who's trying to, doing whatever. So I'll be very careful. But step-in harnesses are the ones I like, and only to 6 months, because the clips are plastic, and you can get micro fractures in there, and at some point in time that clip can break, and whoa, there goes your dog. My dad actually went through this, by the way. Yeah. So that's that. But when I am getting a harness for a working dog, I actually go to 4 dog trainers. Okay. So, one, I will get a harness designed and for whatever it is I'm trying to get to work with the dog. So there's certain harnesses, like nylon harnesses with the Velcro areas for, let's say, assistance dogs, that will say something like dog in training or whatnot. If there's specific tracking harnesses that I like, it's usually like a leather harness that we used to use, stuff like that. So it depends on where you live. I'm sure a lot of people have their own opinions on harnesses and where it chafes and where it puts pressure and all that. I'm not talking about that. The other harness that I use for weight pull for dog harnesses look very different. So I'll just get a photo here for the people so they can actually see what that looks like. This actually has to be custom made for each dog, by the way. So these weight pull harnesses. So more expensive harnesses, like good quality. The wear and tear is a lot longer. The clips are of good quality steel that won't break. They're not plasticky, because I take my dogs safety really seriously. I'll only get those when my dog's pretty much fully grown. I'm not talking about thin or fat, right? I'm talking about fully grown, as in as tall and as long as they're going to be. Because it can get quite expensive if you get proper equipment for your dogs. So that's the one thing. I actually use flexi leashes with my puppies, again, because there's so much value in them. I know there's some people who are like, I will never use that, and that's okay. That's for you. That's okay. You don't need to tell me that. But I like flexi leashes for that. What I will say is it's hard to use flexi leashes on really strong dogs. And the only other time I might use a flexi leash, depending on the dog, is with, I think we spoke about it a little while ago, is on perhaps if I'm dealing with a dog in a wheelchair. But I still want to experiment first before I say that too loud, so don't quote me on that. There is a leash in Canine Pro that I really like. It's called the gripper leash. However, there's a bit of a problem with the gripper leash, and that is if it wraps around your leg, it grips. So you got to be careful. So long lines, pros and cons. Really good for recall training, but a gripper leash, it's also, long lines are great for tracking and that. I actually make my own long lines. So I actually go to Bunnings, I buy the brass clips that are really good. I know they're not going to break like a plastic clip or anything. And then I get the, cotton rope, because it's nice on my hands. Although my hands are pretty sturdy these days. So I can do the training, so it's a little cheaper. I like flat leashes. I'm not a big fan of round leashes. There's just something in my hands that don't like that, because Mario's got a round leash. I don't like using it at all. So I'm always back to my flat leashes, like webbing almost. Again, you got to look at the clip, because if that clip, sometimes dogs drag it, it gets wet, it gets dirty, you need to check the clips. Equipment fails eventually, so you got to check it. So that's pretty much leashes and collars. I'm not going to talk about collars too much. A good flat collar is really good. Again, I go to 4 dog trainers for collars. I actually like leather collars. You need to look at this again. You need to look at the material people are using. You need to look at the clip. That's really important. I like the leather collars, and again, once the dog's grown, so about 18 months or so to get that. I'll always have a collar in between, so I'll have one collar that can grow with the dog, because you have these little holes that you make them bigger. There's another collar I really like from Wild Pet, which they developed, and it's really sturdy. I was actually looking at their photos earlier today to find it, and it's hilarious because they have a photo of a camel that wears the collar, which is really good. So you can see the clips are really sturdy, the material is really good, but it looks like this, and it's a really good looking collar. So you can see it's almost made from, I don't know if it's material like seat belts or not, but let me see. Comfortable neoprene padded interior, extra strong 3-ply webbing, so that's pretty strong, and marine grade stainless steel fittings, so that's really good, because you got to think about rust. So like I said, it's a restraint, it's something to do with restraint, so I want to make sure my dog is safe. Yeah. Got any questions there? No?
Would you use a wider one than a narrow one?
I don't know, because I don't know what you're trying to do. I know one guy that likes really wide collars around the dogs, because he works with certain dogs that are. He found that when he had wider, it's almost like it was like I like my weighted blanket, to be really tactile. And he found with with these dogs that he works with, I'm not talking about breed, I'm talking about mental state. He found the wider collars make them, for some reason, feel more secure. And some people are no, it's got to be thinner. So I think that's a preference, and it needs to be matched to the dog.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a good question, but I have no clue. And then, of course, you get different types of restraint collars, right? With anything from a halter to a check chain to all that, but I'm not going to talk about that. I don't think you need that for a puppy at such a young age. I actually do put it on my puppies because I want them to get used to as many types of different things before they go to their homes. The next one's feeding. Hilarious, because I don't really, don't feed my dogs much out of a dog bowl, right? I do eventually feed them out of a bowl, by the way, I'm not saying. But there's a dog pouch that I like. It's a dog pouch, dog training pouch, what's it called? I forget now. No, not that one. Do you remember what it's called? It's right here.
Treat pouch.
It's called the trainer's pouch. Okay. I forget. Sorry, because I use it so much. I use it. Like, eventually I forget. Trainer's pouch. So you guys can see what that looks like. It's a silicone base. I think it's machine washable if I remember correctly. You can flip it out. It's really cool. It's got a belt that you can, adjust to your size. The only thing that can be a problem is if you are using food or treats, because it depends on the person. It can fall out when you bend forward. I know because I've done that a few times. Oopsie. As I was experimenting with different dog food and dog treats, which I don't do anymore. Does that make sense? But you got to think about hygiene. This is great for raw food. Yeah. If you throw raw food in there. But I have a little trick. So I go to Kmart and I buy these. Oops. That's not what I need. Ice cube tray, and I actually buy, where are they? These ones. I actually buy those. So this is the prep I have to do. I literally would do this like food prep over a week, where I would go and hang on, that's not what I want. Where's the picture now? Oh, there it is. Like those.
Yeah.
So I used to, like, every weekend, right? Oh my goodness, I would defrost my raw food, pop it in, like I would weigh it, pop it in there, wait for 2 or 3 hours, pop it out, next batch. Like, I used to food prep for my dog with, that's why I say raw food can be such a pain to train. But it's great for summer, really great for summer, and it's awesome. My dogs get well fed, even though it costs me a little bit more than convenience. Water bowls, I don't know, water bowls are water bowls, I don't know. Not really much I can say. I'm not really I go for practicality. So I don't look for different colours, whether it's bowls or leashes, collars. I don't go for like ceramic and whatever. I just literally go for the stainless steel. It's just really easy to keep clean. And I clean water bowls like at least 2 or 3 times a week. Because dogs have flubber. Favourite one, beds. Beds. I don't actually buy beds for puppies. Because I know at some point when they start to explore and they go, oh. So if I buy a bed, I want to think about how many times do I want to replace it. So is it a cheap enough bed that I can replace it a few times? Once my puppy is past their teething stage, once I know and I've taught my puppy what they can chew and what they can dissect, then I'll get them a bed. Now, this leads me to Daryl. So I got Daryl as a rescue dog. He's about 3. And very quickly I learned that he's a dissector. So Daryl and I had to come up with an arrangement over time, right? So the deal was no bed for a year. That was his own fault because like 3 to 6 months, and then I gave him a bed and he destroyed it and I went, nope. And then in between I was like, what he can chew and what he can't. But I used to verge, I go to the verge and then I get fluffy toys. And the deal was, I'll give you the fluffy toy to dissect in the crate because it's easy to clean. So I actually taught him that over a period of 12 months and he was great. He was absolutely great. Never destroyed my cushions, never destroyed my shoes or anything because he's like, yeah, okay. So you got to think about that. Now, the only bed I do buy for a puppy is the elevated beds because that's what I use for training. It's also really nice, dogs can lay on it, air can come up in there. So I'll show the people which beds I'm in because, again, there's like so many different types. Literally just go to Kmart and buy this one. Actually, you can go on the Verge and pick them up because so many people throw these beds away. Yeah. Okay. Any questions? I don't buy dog clothes. Okay? Dogs don't need clothes. House and travel, you've got to look at the airline approved crates if you're doing flying. I don't really put dogs in carriers. My dogs have 4 legs so they can walk around. And I don't know about this technology stuff. I don't really do tech as much because I'm technology challenged. So my life is hard enough. I'm really not in the mood. So that's kind of like all the categories. So if I buy a puppy, I make a decision on some food and I try it. I make sure I decide what kind of deworming, fleeing, internal, external parasites. You can talk about vaccinations on a different day. I don't do treats because I use meals. I have specific dog toys I like to choose. I actually used to take some of my puppies and they chose their own toys. Like literally. Like, that's okay. But remember, what they grab, you're going to pay for. So just be aware. Grooming's very important. I spoke about training and toilet training, cleaning, collars and leashes, feeding and beds. So I've spoken about all that. Anyway, in the meantime, keep an eye out for when I'm going to put out the expression of interest for the puppy parties. So you guys can come and meet some of these puppies and just come and have a nice little cuddle without having to worry about the responsibilities. Yeah. Did you want to come to a puppy party?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah. You want to come cuddle some
I won't
Labrador
be upset
puppies?
if you don't take me.
Invite you? Okay.
It's fine.
So in the comments, make sure that you guys will, comment that you're interested. I can see if I can tag you. Otherwise, keep an eye out on the page. Hashtag, I think I'm just going to call puppy parties. And yeah, thanks for listening to my, I don't know, what do you call this, educational video. By the way, take learning into your own hands. That's your responsibility.